This new manga in Shonen Jump has just achieved something that hasn't been done since One Piece. After only 10 chapters, it ranked number 1 in the weekly ranking in Japan, which is something that, yes, hasn't been done since One Piece. I'm of course talking about Ichi the Witch. But why is this series so goated? And since my last video where I glazed this has it actually lived up to the hype so far? Well, yes, but I'm assuming you guys want more than that. So to quickly recap, Ichi is a young man born into a world of magic, with living beasts known as Majik roaming everywhere, and to acquire their powers you have to hunt them and complete their trial. All of those who possess magic are women, hence the name witches. But even before Ichi was granted powers, he was already better suited than anyone to be a witch. Why is this? Well, it's actually stated that witches are basically just hunters, and Ichi was abandoned in the woods to die with just a knife to survive when he was a child, but instead of taking his own life, he used it to fight, eventually learning how to live on his own in these mountains, surrounded by terrifying monsters, which obviously made Ichi into an incredible hunter. Everything changes one day when Ichi comes across a beast whom even he can't kill. His senses told him it was completely out of his league, but Ichi, like the complete psycho that he is, still wanted to kill this monster. This was the magic known as Uroro, possibly the strongest magic to ever live. Shortly after this, the abyssal witch Desscaras arrived in the forest to take care of Uroro. They've clearly fought multiple times before, but Desscaras has never managed to defeat him. And Desscaras is basically the Gojo of Ichi the Witch. Her laid-back personality, her carefree attitude, and of course, she's the strongest. Uroro is by far the most problematic magic because he actively wants to hurt humans, leveling mountains and taking countless human lives for no other reason other than his own amusement. Desscaras did actually manage to defeat Uroro here, but there's a catch. Remember the trials I mentioned earlier? Well, a requirement to defeat Uroro is that you're a man, or more accurately, you can't be a woman. And since no man has the power of magic, he should be invincible. At least that would be the case if not for Ichi lurking nearby, waiting, listening, and like a true hunter waiting for the perfect moment his prey was vulnerable. So once weakened, Uroro falls into the pit trap that Ichi made, with binds that he can never break through. So this gives Ichi the perfect chance to stab straight through this barrier. Now, Ichi is willing to kill, unlike other protagonists, if needed, but he has his own rationale as to when killing is appropriate. If a beast hurts or harms humans, he has permission to kill them, or if they attempt to kill him, he has permission to act in self-defense. But anyway, because he technically just completed Uroro's trial, Ichi becomes a witch and is granted magic. The first male witch in history. Not just that, but like a true main character, as he not only cracks Desscaras' barrier, but after accidentally speaking a chant that she mentioned, he annihilates the entire forest with ease. This was all in the first chapter, so it's clearly off to a good start. But what about now? 10 chapters later, is it still fire? Well, it's actually better. Why? First of all, you've got the incredible magic system. Ichi the Witch has the usual magic types that you'll see in most manga, like fire, water, wind, earth, etc. But here is where it differs: the trials. To actually gain the power of magics, you have to complete their trials, so it's not all about brute strength. Obviously, some can just be killed, like the Raiko magic, but not all. Like Uroro had a condition, hence why Desscaras couldn't defeat him. Then in Ichi's first official mission, we meet the Hisame Majik, who is basically an ice shark. Magics are special, you have to complete their trials. The witches are the contestants and the magic is the judge on whether or not they pass. The Hisame Majik specifically wants Ichi to make them fabulous.
What?
Yep, they want to test Ichi's fashion sense of all things. And after failing a few times, Ichi decides to turn the guy into sashimi from the inside, and the Hisame Majik considers this to be beautiful, which, to be fair, it is. So Ichi passes the trial and gets another power. But the whole thing of having to complete a trial instead of brute forcing your way through everything obviously doesn't apply to other witches. So we could potentially see evil witches with insane powers. Because as I just said, once you defeat a magic, you obtain their powers. So the strongest witches have to have completed countless trials, meaning that you aren't limited to 1 or 2 powers like in other anime and manga. You can technically have infinite amounts of abilities. For example, Ichi's first major battle after becoming a witch is against the Raiko magic, and as you'd expect from the name, it possesses the power of lightning. Every magic possesses a heartstone, which is what keeps them alive. You can receive these from either knocking the magic unconscious or immobilizing them and cutting them out, which is a lot more savage, or you can just complete their trials. Technically, I guess you could just brute force your way through a lot of magics, but obviously this doesn't work for all of them, as we saw with Desscaras unable to kill Ororo. So we can assume that if you're facing a stronger magics, then you definitely have to complete their trial. Otherwise, why would Desscaras have Ichi complete the Hisame Magic's trial? She'd just have him kill it. Anyway, once you have this stone, it allows you to use the magic's power by speaking their true name. In this case, it's Inazuri, meaning lightning claw, which does exactly what you'd think. It allows Ichi to fire a projectile attack made of lightning. In fact, it apparently feels like he's swinging a scythe. This is already such an interesting power system, but Ichi brings another level thanks to Ororo. Ororo has the power of amplification. From what I can understand, outside of special magic abilities, if you do have magic, you can use basic spells varying in power depending on your innate mana. In Ichi's case, he has the average mana of a female mage, but thanks to amplification, he's busted. In the first chapter of the series, bro cracked Desscaras' barrier magic, you know, the strongest mage alive, basically Gojo in this world. Then he went on to speak another spell that he heard her say, Lazud, which caused him to destroy an entire forest. Not just that, but because killing animals that have not threatened him or hurt others goes against his belief, Ichi believes that he did the forest wrong. So again, thanks to Desscaras slipping up and telling him the spell for regrowth, he regenerates the entire forest, and not just that, it's better than ever. There is a downside to Ororo's power though, which is that it's so powerful that it knocks Ichi unconscious for days, so for the time being, we get to really experience how magic works outside of Ororo, since he's completely abnormal. I mean, no other magic becomes sentient and has a form after their defeat, but Ororo does, making him try to manipulate Ichi all the time, mainly to get him killed, since unlike, say, Yuji and Sukuna for example, when Ichi dies, Ororo is released. Anyway, we did just mention Desscaras, so let's go into her since she's carrying the story as much as Ichi. Desscaras is the strongest witch alive, known as the Abyssal Witch. Given what Ororo says in chapter 1, they fought many times before, and he also considers her to be the strongest ever, as no one has ever came as close as she did in defeating him. If not for the requirement, she would have ended him right here. But that's not what makes her interesting, she's genuinely just hilarious. Her facial reactions just get me every time, like this one, and then this one recently, and this isn't even everything. I just love her attitude throughout, like she's so arrogant, not just about her own power, but about her appearance, which to be fair, is valid. But Ichi is the one who makes her show more emotion. We can assume that she was quite laid back and calm the majority of the time, but when it comes to Ichi, not so much. She's always pissed at him because he somehow got Ororo's power over her, which she wanted for a long ass time. She's always calling him an idiot and stupid and whatever she wants to. But let's talk about the main man himself. Ichi. Ichi is possibly the best protagonist I've seen in a long time. He's a real breath of fresh air. Ichi is a natural hunter, and as I mentioned, his personality is extremely interesting due to this. Ichi's home truly became the mountain, and he became obsessed with hunting and fighting. He saw Ororo and immediately ran in the other direction, not due to being afraid, but due to not being aware of if Ororo had actually hurt or killed anyone, waiting for an excuse to take this beast's life, which Desscaras gave him. And once he does take down Ororo and becomes a witch, everything changes. Ichi is the first male witch ever, but what makes Ichi interesting is that no matter what happens, he never hesitates or becomes shaken. Whether it's Desscaras, Ororo, or a countless number of witches watching him, Ichi will attack with no hesitation if he feels threatened. He immediately joined Desscaras to experience the life of magic, which makes sense. Ichi was thrilled to hunt Ororo, and when finding out that he could hunt more of these beasts, of course he's on board, especially when Desscaras further uses his excitement to make him into a fully fledged witch. Ororo himself states that what she's doing is insane, because Ichi is already a freak of nature. Teaching him about magic and the world beyond will turn him into an actual monster. Also, before we fully get into Ichi's journey, I do want to bring up that Ichi does have his own sense of right and wrong. I've already said how he won't kill if he's not in danger or if they've not hurt others, but when he does make a mistake, he'll do whatever it takes to reverse it. Like when he accidentally destroyed the entire forest. He immediately used the rebirth spell to reverse the damage he'd caused, and when confronting the Raiko magic, he also waited to see if he was going to hurt humans by using Desscaras as bait. Once it does prove that it is indeed willing to kill, Ichi kills it with no hesitation, with zero effort at all. Ororo says how sad he is for this magic, but then Ichi has his coldest panel in the series so far, stating, "This magic killed for fun. It wasn't hungry, its life wasn't in danger. It burned creatures purely because it felt like it. That isn't hunting, that's murder. It had no problem toying with others, so it has no right to complain about others toying with it." Like, Bruh, this even had Ororo speechless, and Desscaras realised that Ichi sees magics completely differently to other living creatures. Others see magics as something terrifying, and their powers should be respected, but Ichi sees things a lot more simply. They're just another living creature, the same rules apply to them. And I'd agree with him here. Their powers, abilities, don't matter if they harm others. They can't complain about being killed if they're willing to kill others. Anyway, soon after, Ichi is summoned to the capital of Natali, at the Mantonal Witches Association. This is where we get some really fun dynamics, as Ichi has never been to a major city. This actually reminds me of when Asta went to the royal capital of the Clover Kingdom for the first time, being blown away by the size of the place and the amount of people. Ichi goes through the same thing. He finds these magical boots that let you strengthen your legs, giving you better jumping power, and the average woman can typically jump around 6 feet in the air. But Ichi? Yeah, nah. Desscaras specifically tells the guy to keep his magic secret, but Bro uses the boots to basically fly in the air, showing that compared to the average person, yeah, he's built different. Likely because he already has incredibly developed muscles from hunting in the forest. This is further proven by Shida Bedonna when she scans his body, saying he's 132 pounds, 5'5", and 11% body fat. So his FFMI is around like 20.5, and Bro hasn't even trained for muscle specifically, so that's crazy. And so he dives around the city with ease, becoming more and more enticed by magic. Anyway, Ichi's journey to the Witches Association begins with him proving his ability to use magic, but instead of hitting the designated target, he aims at the sky, or, well, the ceiling. Why? Well, his instincts tell him to target hostile presences, and it turns out that many witches are watching him, assessing whether or not he's a threat. Things take a turn when Ororo appears in a larger form, attempting to manipulate Ichi into turning against these witches, claiming they've treated him like a beast. Ichi isn't fooled though, and effortlessly throws Ororo over his shoulder. Ororo goes on about how tragic it is that magics are hunted, accusing humans of being greedy, but Ichi sees through his lies. If Ororo truly cared, he'd have shown more emotion when Ichi captured Inazori, but instead his eyes are completely empty. Ichi, who's sensitive to hostile energy, can feel Ororo's bloodlust, so strong it almost compels him to stab himself in the gut. Ironically, Ororo's attempt to convert Ichi has the opposite effect, as Ichi becomes even more excited to hunt pests like him. This act also gains Ichi the support of Shida Bedonna, and the witches agree to make him an official witch. Ichi's first mission begins with a watcher named Kumagi observing his every move. In chapter 7, we even see him giving her back shots, so she's clearly the endgame. Ichi's charm quickly wins Kumagi over, and he shows her kindness that no one ever has, complimenting her magic despite others considering her weak. He tells her that the value of a tool lies in how it's used, and he praises her magical abilities. And then later, Ichi saves a girl with an epic panel using Inazori, but when he realizes that the Hisame magic is willing to kill humans, he switches instantly into kill mode. He uses the magic's own ice and water against it, by channeling electricity with Inazori, ultimately creating a magical blade to shred through its insides. All of this causes Kumagi to be frightened by how much of a natural Ichi is with magic. Everything he's learned out in the wild, including his fishing skills, applies to magic in some way. I mean, Ichi's eventual capture of the Hisame magic is actually really interesting. Because the magic has a specific trial where you have to, well, make it look beautiful, it's not a simple fight to the death. We even get a bit more backstory, with Minakata being introduced when Ichi was a child, teaching him a lot about surviving, and a lot of the reason that Ichi became such a good hunter was because of this man, and I very much doubt this guy's a minor character that's never going to come back again. And because of his teachings, he was able to completely disassemble the Hisame magic and turns it into sushi, beautiful sushi that's literally impeccable to the point where it believes it's beautiful, and so he passes the trial. And so because of this, Desscaras acknowledges that only Ichi could pull off such feats. Though she insults him after, she still recognizes his potential. The world building is another main highlight of the series, and it's one of the primary reasons I became so hooked early on. Through Ichi, we explore the magical world, learning that magics hide in places like volcanoes, the ocean's depths, and even on a bookshelf. Witches are tasked with finding and harnessing their powers, and the mystery surrounding them is thrilling. And then the art, drawn by Shiro Usazaki, is consistently amazing. The settings are beautiful, and the action is always engaging. We've also met fascinating witches, including Shirobedonna, who I just mentioned, who has a unique personality, and Monogold, the Oriate witch, who might have omniscient powers, because, you know, that's what her name means. Given the fact that she's surrounded by mirrors and can seemingly always tell what's going on, there's a lot of intrigue surrounding these witches and what they can do, and considering it's actually two women who are in charge of this manga, we can actually expect to see well-developed female characters, which has never really been done to a amazing extent, and I'm excited to see how this story will unfold, and a lot of it reminds me of the characters I loved in Iruma-kun, like Amori and Kara, and I'm confident that the witches will be just as well written. The recent chapters back me up on this point, because after Ichi has succeeded in a lot of his battles, he's obviously being talked about again by the witches, because he's already gotten 3 magics, because usually the fastest acquisitions take at least a week, some even take a year or 2, but then Ichi is acquiring them so rapidly. It's only been 2 weeks. Because of this, they can't really keep him secret anymore, so Shirobedonna recommends that they actually announce it to the entire world. There's already questions about who acquired Ororo and where did the enormous forest he create come from, and we see new witches like Monogold's secretary, Serkos. It all seems to be going well, but then we meet another witch, the Silver Snow Witch, Okay, guys, I'm gonna struggle to say this. Togeice. That is wrong. Okay, I'm sorry. Anyway, she says that she's against it because he hasn't went through the traditional magic training and he needs better education. And while she does believe in Shirobedonna's assessment as him as a witch, she doesn't have any faith in him as a person. And when Desscaras tried to step in and, you know, back him up, it actually does the opposite because he just comes off as a wild animal. They decide to decide it with a contest, making it a magic hunt. If Togeice can acquire the magic first, then they'll decide that Ichi needs more training and enroll him into the educational program. Whereas if Ichi acquires the magic first, they'll formally acknowledge his abilities and announce his existence to the world. So this is where the next arc is right now, with both of them facing off against each other. Obviously, Togeice is very arrogant because she's been a witch for years, but Ichi has been a hunter his entire life, being an expert at mushroom hunting specifically, which is what this test is about. And then we even get some intrigue with this new character being introduced who we find out later is actually a magic, leaving us on a massive cliffhanger. This whole arc is incredibly interesting to me because we see a lot of new magical abilities. Togeice is the only one who's stated to be even close to Desscaras, as she has a natural gift for magic. The two of them became the youngest girls in the Mantenal history to earn the title of full witch at age 11. I mean, it's even stated by the leader of the Witches Association that she's likely to nominate Togeice as her successor as president. And of course, she has outrageous magic. I mean, look at this panel. But then while she's doing this, Ichi is the complete opposite, using no magic at all and just using his raw hunting ability to hunt down this magic. But then whilst we're wondering what the hell is going on and they're fighting against each other, another magic enters the fray, the being we saw earlier, with Ichi recognizing its bloodlust. Okay, well, I thought Ichi the Witch was already insane, but the recent chapter that just released has just proven that it's even more crazy than I could have ever imagined. And it's so good that it's caused me to have to work more. So thanks, Osama Nishi. Thank you for that. Anyway, after the twist I just mentioned that this humanoid being was in fact a magic, we learned that it knows Ororo. This magic is so powerful and terrifying, it even has him trembling. Ororo was literally trying to suppress his presence to make sure it didn't sense him, but then Ichi ran up to it with no hesitation because of his instincts. Once this magic learns that Ichi acquired Ororo, it's in pure disbelief, and we get this goated panel shortly afterwards of Ichi dashing towards this magic, only to slash thin air and get asked the question, "What do you see when you look at me?" Ichi responds that he sees pure death, knowing that this magic has killed more than any other creature he's ever met. The magic then goes on to trap Ichi within a barrier, and of course all the witches see this, including Desscaras, who for the first time in the series is completely shook, and not in shock, but she seems terrified and angry. She clearly knows who this magic is and goes to attack, leaving us with even more questions about her. Marigold tells Togeice that she's issuing a code 00, an S-tier magic warning, because they received a prophecy about what's about to go down. On the 6th day of the 6th month, at 45 minutes past the 2nd hour, or in other words, 15 minutes, this town and its surroundings will be warped out of existence. This magic is so mysterious that they know nothing about it. Its power, its trial, not even what it looks like. Ichi's instincts are the only reason this magic has ever been seen by humans, or when humans have seen it, well, the magic's just killed them. But Ichi's the main character, so that's not gonna happen. But this is clearly the introduction of the biggest antagonist in Ichi the Witch. It appeared 15 years ago, and with no warning, it decimated 3 miles of a mountain. I mean, this is similar to Ororo, but I've been saying that he was the strongest magic because that's what we're led to believe. But this new one, if Ororo is the king magic, this is the god magic, being named the World Hater Magic, which is one of the coldest names I've ever heard. This thing is terrifying. Telling Ichi he should have asked how many more people he's going to kill instead of how many he's already killed. And we all know how serious this is when even Ororo is telling Ichi to use his power to not fight, but run the away. This thing is so strong that even Ororo was like, yeah, hell nah, knowing that he'd be vaporized alongside Ichi if someone just happened to trigger this magic. But Ichi proves once again why he's the GOAT of shonen manga. Despite sweating in fear, he wants to hunt this magic more than anything. This is straight up hype. I personally believe that due to the wording of warped rather than destroyed, we could see Ichi and Desscaras, since, you know, she was on her way into the barrier, warped into a different space that this magic owns, filled with all the towns and people that it's killed, or, well, warped. Desscaras has likely lost family and friends to this magic, so chances are she'll be reunited with them. And since this magic clearly has no other issues taking on other magic, given how Ororo reacts, we'll probably see countless other magic that Ichi and Desscaras will have to fight their way through. I really want to talk more about this, but I'm already out of time here. Please like the video and comment down below, because more than anything, I want to cover Ichi the Witch more. And if you do want to discuss this video and future chapters of Ichi the Witch, please make sure to join my new Discord. And of course, become a member to get new roles, because I like money.